G-Shock released the GWGB1000 some time ago, but it was not cheap, and it took me a long time to save up to purchase it. So now, here we go. Here it is, the Mudmaster. Coming in a plastic baggie, for those of you keeping track. Yeah, like I said, not a cheap watch. The question is it worth it? Wow. All right. That is something else. The impression, first impression, very positive. Okay. So many fine details to this watch, and it feels durable. It feels rugged. All right. Metal keeper, not really excited about that. But anyways, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let me take off this fine metallic series watch and put on this brand new, well, new to me, G-Shock GWG-B1000. Blue stands for Bluetooth, or the B stands for Bluetooth, excuse me. So not excited about that either. However, it does add some functionality to the watch, which we will explore on another family hiking trip. There we go, top of the hour. The cool thing about G-Shocks is that, you know, they leave the factory set for the correct time. From everyone I've seen, I mean, it's set for the Tokyo time, right? And these multi-band 6 watches will sync up each night via the multi-band 6 when you're in that area. So the only setting that needs to be done on a watch such as this one is to show it, you know, set the time zone, all right? Or you could just hook up the Bluetooth and everything would be done automatically. That is the appeal of Bluetooth. And despite all the convenience of Bluetooth, a lot of us G-Shock diehards, us old heads, do not like Bluetooth at all on a watch. Let me remove this. Remove this plastic if I can. There we go. All right. So, how about that legibility? Now, given the lighting in this room, and I'm in the garage, you know, the legibility is pretty good for the hands. The hands really stand out. You see them right there? And by the way, I'm pointing with a Write in the Rain mini bolt action pen. Fantastic pen. I just bought 2 new Write in the Rain pens, black ones. So stay tuned for that unboxing, and I'll leave a link below. I highly recommend the Write in the Rain mini bolt action pen for your everyday carry watch. But anyways, the hands on this model of the Mudmaster GWG-B1000 are off-white. It's kind of like a yellowish color, okay? And other color variants have white hands, okay? I kind of like this off-white color. You know, first of all, the white outline of the hands stands out. As you can see, the hour hand has, you know, like an interior shape to it. Not as outlandish as that on the GAV001. Let me see if I have that here. I may have left it in the pickup. Oh, here it is. All right. Which one has crazier hands? Which one do you think is easier to read? All right. So the hour hand is differentiated by size and shape, and also this design on it. And so the sword style minute hand, really easy to see the shape of the hour and minute hand. And those of you who are analog watch enjoyers, you know, longtime analog watch enjoyers, especially those boomers, can tell the time just by looking at the shape of the hour and minute hand, the kind of like the angle that they make. That you don't even need to see the indices, you don't even need to see the numbers on the indices, because having spent years and years looking at analog watches, you can just read them really quickly, okay? Millennials and younger, well, millennials are kind of, could go either way, but you know, the younger generations, it's not so common to have analog watches, which is really crazy because, you know, there's a lot of analog watches that G-Shock has made and have been very successful. Well, this one's dead. This is the GAB2100, all right, which is a really cool watch. And this is the Eco Fabric cotton band, very comfortable. Not that durable, but I do like this watch. This one also, the hand is off-white, which lends to its legibility. Now, the indices, as you'll notice, are not very high contrast. They're muted color, but with a lot of these G-Shock analog watches, the shape, the three-dimensional shape of the indices lend to their their legibility, their ability to read. Let's just say, not just their ability to see, but you can kind of get a three-dimensional acquisition of the watch face, which allows you to read the time, which is pretty cool. I've talked about that some on this metal G-Shock watch that I had, that, it's the three-dimensional shape and the facets add a lot to those indices. But anyways, there's only two numbers. The 12 o'clock position is labeled and the 6 o'clock position is labeled. The 3 o'clock position has a subdial and the 9 o'clock position has a subdial. These subdials have actual functions, which I will explore in upcoming videos out in the wild, okay? Now there's a LCD subdial at the bottom, which is negative. Now a lot of you are fuming mad and insanely angry at the existence of negative displays. Negative displays are you're just intolerant of negative LCD displays. All right, so there's a positive LCD display on this GA, what is this one? I can't even remember, the GM 2100 something, which is a pretty cool watch. This clasp was not as durable as I was hoping, but if you're aware of its shortcomings, because it's pressed metal, just be careful it doesn't pop open on you. But other than that, it's a pretty affordable metal G-Shock watch. But anyways, this subdial is positive. And even though these little numbers are very tiny, they're somewhat easier to read. Now compare that to the digital subdial on, well, I guess on this Mudmaster. Can you read it? I'm looking through the camera. I cannot read it. I'm looking above the camera. I can barely read it. I can kind of read it looking over the camera. All right. So, all right, it says Thursday, 6/26. You got to kind of move it around to read that negative LCD. Is that a deal breaker for you? I know that a lot of you guys hate negative LCDs, and I have made many a rant video about the negative display on the King. My King is the GXW56BB. It's dead. It's been in the coffin for so long, it needs sunlight. But, it's very difficult to read this digital screen. And so I was wondering how it could even leave the factory being so difficult to read. And again, it's dead, but you can watch my videos where it's alive and you can see I made many rant videos about the negative LCD being very difficult to read. Now, as a analog subdial, the negative LCD, I mean, it's more tolerable for me, okay? Because it kind of blends into the whole dial of the watch. So to read the digital subdial, it's optional, okay? The primary method of telling time, which are the analog hands, are legible on this watch, okay? The indices don't stand out, all right? Now, if you want a watch whose indices stand out, made by G-Shock, I highly recommend the Gravity Master. All right, this is a pilot's watch. It's meant to be a pilot's watch. Look how legible these hands are and these indices. All right, you can watch my video about this Gravity Master. This was in the G-Shock mystery box sent to me by Tim Johnson of the Real Ideal Gear channel. We have a live stream coming up in just a few days. All right, it's Paul Whaley, Tim Johnson, and I will be live streaming. And that will be on the Real Ideal Gear channel. So look for those notifications and chime in, because a lot of times, we'll have kind of like, a little bit of a competitive type of deal. I say competitive. It's just kind of, I want guys to check in from my channel, kind of drowned out the troll known as Turd Ferguson, who seems to follow me around everywhere. He's a menace in the comments. So if I could have more guys check in from my channel to the live stream and, you know, add some more constructive information than Turd Ferguson, please. But anyways, the Gravity Master, highly legible analog watch, no digital subdial at all. The subdials are analog. Mudmaster, all right. So this is a watch that has mastered mud, and the subdial is digital. All right. Now, okay, so I don't want to jump ahead of myself. Comparison videos are upcoming. We'll put the Mudmaster against the other watches. Speaking of friendly competition, let's not forget about the Mudman. So this is my favorite watch. And the question is, can the Mudmaster unseat the Mudman as my favorite watch? And I have 2 of the G-Shock Mudman's GW9500. Let me find my other one. Where did it go? I just have so many G-Shock watches to sort through that, you know, it can be quite a production pulling them out of the G-Shock toolbox, also known as the coffin. Some people call it the coffin because watches go there to die, particularly the solar-powered watches. So we have 2 Mudmans, and you might be wondering, what's the difference between these Mudmen? Well, obviously the color, but I mean, the color is secondary to the fact that this Rescue Yeller Mudman, did I say Rescue Yeller? I must be a Texan. This watch is Yeller. Anyways, the bezel is metal, all right? And the bezel on the original Mudman is plastic. Now you see that you might need OCD to see this. I know that a lot of you have OCD because you're watching hours of watch-related videos on YouTube, but you could see that this bezel that is plastic is warped and pulling back from this mineral glass screen. Okay? Now I got my AutoZone feelers, you know, the feeler gauges for when you're setting spark plugs or honing your engine pistons, and I determined that this was what, 1 and over 164th of an inch pulling away, something like that. You have to watch that video, but it's pulling away. The middle bezel Mudman has no such problem. There's no pulling away. It's metal. I mean, maybe if you walked close to, you know, lava in a volcano, the heat would warp the metal bezel. But short of that, I don't see it happening. Maybe cryogenic fluids. I do have access to cryogenic fluids. Maybe we could see what happens when liquid nitrogen is exposed to the Mudman. Stay tuned for that video. Now the Mudmaster, this is the main event of this video. So I need to show you guys that there's metal. There's chiseled metal. It looks like a chisel. This reminds me of a chisel. The angles of it. My son has like a woodworking chisel set. I will hold the chisels close to this Mudmaster, and you will see that these are like the edges of a chisel. Pretty cool, right? So there's metal, but then above the metal we have, you know, this bezel. This is what, carbon fiber or plastic? What is it? This is metal. So what did I call these the last time? I forget what I called them. They hold down the bezel. They clamp down the bezel. And this edge here these are not metal, but it's tapered. So this allows the sleeve to go up and over the Mudmaster. And is the Mudmaster thicker than the Mudman? Similar size. However, I believe that the Mudman is slightly thinner, very difficult to see. We'll make a whole separate video in which we compare the Mudman to the Mudmaster. But I can tell you that very similar size, you know, in terms of how proud it stands off your wrist, okay? And so will this be a good watch for diesel mechanics? You know, will this be a good one to wear while I'm working on the equipment that I operate in the oil field? Well, we shall see. Gentlemen, there's only one way to find out. the answers to all the questions about the durability of this watch and about its functionality, and that is to actually test it in real-life scenarios, which is what you want to watch on my channel, the Jim Kinkade YouTube channel. So, as much as I am able, I will keep you updated to, how this watch fares in various tests. All sorts of practical, real-world tests, like can you press the buttons while wearing safety gloves? Okay, at work, I need to wear impact-resistant gloves. And so you look at these buttons, and these buttons are shrouded in metal. All of these buttons, there's 4 buttons, well, 5 buttons, including the light button, have a cylindrical metal shroud. And just a little bit of the button sticks out, and it makes a shape. It's kind of like a biohazard / snowflake shape, right? So, that these watches, these Master of G watches, are meant to be in exceedingly harsh environments. And so the goal of a G-Shock watch is to protect the buttons from damage and also from accidental button pressing. So the shrouds, the metal shrouds, obviously protect the buttons. And then the fact that only a little bit sticks out protects the watch from accidental button presses. So when you intend to press a button, is it easy? Well, I'm pressing the button now, and this button has like a lot of movement. And it's like, feels cushioned inside. So I would say with the naked finger, the button pressing is a good experience. I can hear the beep. I can see the watch react. It's not like a lot of these newfangled watches that G-Shock makes where there's a lot of lag from when you press the button to when the watch reacts. And I'll just give you a demo. Holding down, I have to bring this out of power saving mode. But this is the DWH5600. You press the button, and like when you press in, it doesn't do anything. When you let go, that's when it reacts, and there's lag, and you cannot quickly press the button. Like if you press it real quick, a lot of the presses will not register. There's lag, okay? Now how about the Mudmaster? It got most of those presses. All right. To compare it to other watches, this is just a regular Casio, the AE 1500. See how every single button press caused a reaction? All right, well, I guess there's a little bit of lag. Not every single press registered. While I guess it has to do with the analog, I'm just going to guess here, it has to do with the analog subdials moving, because the analog subdials move. And so you just can't go buck wild just pressing on that mode button because of how the watch needs to react. Now, the Mudman. I think most of these presses are registering. So pretty interesting. We'll do some more research into that. But there's also a crown here, and the crown, you got to unscrew it. All right, it just popped out. And now you set the city. All right, New York City. No way. I'm to never go back to New York City. So let me scroll through the planet Earth. Oh, there we go, Chicago. That's the one we want. Central Time Zone. Should just be called Texas time, even though part of Texas is in the Mountain Time Zone. It's a very small part of Texas that's in the Mountain Time Zone. All right. So you see, there you go. I set the watch just by setting the time zone. Thursday, 6:26, 1:17 p.m. Is that the correct time? Yes, sir. Now, this Mudman did receive the multiband 6. You can see the little triangle. And so did this one, because I've been wearing this one. And despite being in the coffin, this still got the multiband 6 signal. Did the Mudmaster get the multiband 6 signal? I have to ask that because one of my more popular videos is a rant video I made about the Mudmaster. Because when it came out, G-Shock was beginning to add Bluetooth to many of their watches. And guys like me had a serious gripe with that. We wanted standalone watches. We wanted watches whose functionality did not rely on Bluetooth. And a lot of snide commenters told us that we need to give it a break, because if you did not want to use Bluetooth, then just don't use it. Use the watch without Bluetooth. That's what they told us. Well, when this watch came out, the Mudmaster GWG-B1000, there was a bug in the software, and that bug caused the watch to not receive the multiband 6 time signal each night automatically. You could manually attempt to receive that signal, but the automatic time acquisition would not work. That's how I understand it. I didn't own the watch at the time. And so the solution from G-Shock is to update the software, which, guess what, required Bluetooth. Now, some folks would say, what's a big deal? Just hook up the watch. Well, using Bluetooth is no simple task. You need to create an account with an email, agree to 2 different terms of service, which is a lot of hoops to jump through. That is a violation of privacy. Some people might consider that a serious violation of privacy, since this watch is fingerprinted to you after you hook up the Bluetooth to it, and presumably you could be tracked, as well as personal information leaked. All sorts of things could happen, not saying they would or that they do, but some folks who are privacy and security minded do not want Bluetooth at all on their watch. So I will test out this watch to see whether it has that problem, and I will see how well it works, how much you can use this watch without Bluetooth. I will also hook up the Bluetooth, as I have with other watches. Now, the reason why I do that, people ask me why. Like, why do I go back and forth saying I don't want to use Bluetooth, then make videos about using Bluetooth? Well, the reason is that I want to have a watch that has no Bluetooth, and that is the Mudman GW9500. Okay, this is like your go-to-war watch. No Bluetooth, does a lot of things. It has ABC sensors. It has, the G-Shock style watch functionality. It is a standalone watch, and I really appreciate that. Okay, so this is the watch that I have. I guess I have 2 of them. I mean, I even have an old Rangeman GW9400. These are highly functional standalone watches. No Bluetooth required. These are good to have. Okay? So I make videos about the Bluetooth because I have the watch, and if you have no problems with Bluetooth, no qualms at all about hooking up your watch, then I would make instructional videos for you and just kind of preview what you can expect to see, before you pull the trigger on purchasing any of these watches. And so that's the service that I provide to the watch community, is just, this is my experience with all these watches. Take the information, aggregate it for yourself, compare it to, other videos and other sources of information. Make a decision by yourself as to what watch you want. Okay? I'm telling you my opinion. I'm really clear when something's my opinion, but I'm just giving you facts about how the watch fares under my usage. And some people say my usage is equivalent to abuse. Why would you say that? Why would you say that I abuse watches? Oh, here we go. The first durability test. Do you see any dings or dents from smashing the Mudmaster into its box? Well, what is that? That may have just been sweat. Yeah, I think that was a sweat. I'm very sweaty. I'm in Texas in my garage making a watch video, and you better believe I'm sweaty. There's like sweat. There's like a puddle of sweat. I'm standing in a puddle of sweat. All right, but anyways, sapphire glass. This is what so many G-Shock lovers have been asking for on their watches. They just love the sapphire. Look how scratched up this Mudman is. All because it was scraped through wet concrete. Okay, I ran it through concrete. There's still some concrete on it. All right, scratch up the screen. Scratch the dickens out of the screen. This Mudman I guess these scratches aren't as bad, but the OCD viewers have seen it. This was dragged through a combination of caliche, which is like a clay they have in West Texas, and hydraulic oil that was on the frame rail of my liquid nitrogen pump, which is oil-filled equipment. So yeah, this got scratched up, all right? And so, how about the sapphire glass? Will it scratch up? Well, there's only one way to find out. Gentlemen, stay tuned for more tough testing of the Mudmaster, all right? We're going to run it through the wringer. We're going to see, is this really scratch proof? Is it? Well, the Right in the Rain pen does not seem to be scratching it at all. But I remember in geology class from Silver Lake High School that quartz is, what is it, number 7 on Mohs scale of hardness? Maybe we can find some quartz. See if we can scratch up the screen. Maybe caliche. Maybe concrete. Okay? And also, my videos on the Promaster Land are very popular. And one selling point of the Promaster Land as compared to other watches, particularly G-Shocks, is its inclusion of sapphire glass. And so the question I want to know is, if you smash these two watches together, which one lives and which one dies? Okay? We have to put these two watches head to head. Because I think that Citizen really brought the war to G-Shock because they have a sapphire glass anti-digi watch with an MIP screen. So that subdial, that digital subdial is MIP. Look how it's a legibility in this light. Now look at the legibility of this LCD. You might be asking, what LCD? Well, there's an LCD there. See? You have to get it just perfect in order to see. Not so with the Citizen Promaster Land. Visible at all sorts of angles. So these guys at Citizen beat G-Shock to the punch when it comes to an MIP subdial. All right? Now us G-Shock aficionados are absolutely insistent that G-Shock has to make a watch. And it's very simple. There's only 3 things we want on it. How much more difficult could this be? Take a square. All right, we want an MIP screen, tough solar, and multiband 6. That's what we want. It's so simple. Okay? Now down the road, I think it would be a great idea for G-Shock to add a MIP subdial on like the next iteration of the Mudmaster. I don't like I said, I don't have a huge problem with the negative screen on subdials just in general. I mean, obviously positive LCDs are more legible, but style-wise, you can't argue with the fact that, you know, that negative LCD screen is it looks cool, right? And so, all right, so the chaotic unboxing, this is more of a first impressions. Now, I just want to say that there's A, B, C sensors here, altimeter, barometer, and compass, all right? And so that's a lot like, you know, the Mudman or the Rangeman. Or, oh yeah, I do have the new Rangeman. I took it apart. Here's the band. Remember that I'm like modding it because I had a lot of problems with these screws getting loose. Yeah, so ABC, this one has an ABC sensor. This is the Rangeman GPR H1000 that, you know, like I said, I had problems with these screws coming out. It may just be me. I may be the only one on planet Earth with that problem, but I did have that problem. I can't understand why my watches break like that. So this Mudmaster does have the ABC functionality, altimeter, barometer, and compass. And the whole time that I've owned these ABC sensors, you know, I calibrate them every now and then. A lot of times, you know, I'll calibrate the barometer to what the weather app says, but I think that it would be better to calibrate it to actual equipment. So we do need to do some tests on ABC sensors in general using United States Geological Survey benchmarks and readings from, you know, calibrated barometric equipment such as a Crestal or even information from you know, NOAA, the weather channel, the weather service, right? So stay tuned for that, okay? And also, one huge feature that this has is trackback feature, that subdial acts as a indicator telling you which way it points to the direction of a pin drop. That requires Bluetooth. That requires your phone. Okay, so that's a feature that I plan to test, maybe in Caprock Canyon, if it is not too dangerously hot. Otherwise, I will find another venue to hike and to see how this watch does in terms of saving waypoints, saving altitude, and does that little subdial, does it help? Does it help you return to a pin drop, like your starting location? Well, we will test that, okay? Lord willing, we'll go out there and test that, all right? So those are the things that you have to look forward to about this Mudmaster testing. Any questions, leave them in the comments, and in the description will be a link where you can purchase this watch if you so desire. First impression is very positive. It's a mud resistant. I didn't even go over all of the amazing features. Okay, so I just plan on making a lot of videos about this one because it is a really nice one. You know, I was making fun of the price, the onset. Well, obviously, you know, it's expensive, but the question is it worth it? And my first impression is that, you know, this is like a masterpiece, a work of art. You know, it's just like looking at all the details. It's very, very fine, very well designed, very well executed. Its durability, you know, obviously we need to test that. And functionality, test that too. And then comparisons, upcoming comparisons will be to the Mudman, my favorite watch, and also the Promaster Land. And then we'll also make comparisons in general among all of the G-Shock anti-digi watches, including the new and best-selling GAV-01, which is iconoclastic, let's just say. It's a polite way of saying that this is an outlandish design, but there you go. Gentlemen, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except through him. I'm Jim Kinkade. Thanks for watching.